In this video we're going to cover the Honda Element automatic transmission fluid drain and fill 3 times and a filter change. We're going to start by removing the under splash shield. That'll allow us access to the automatic transmission fluid inline filter underneath the radiator, and it will also allow us to not spill any fluid on that cover when we're draining out the fluid. If you're just simply performing a fluid drain, you can kind of circumvent that by bending that plastic flap about center of the screen there at the very bottom, but it's easier if you just remove the whole thing. Everything stays clean then. The best way to remove the clips retaining the splash shield is just a flathead screwdriver and just pry very gently on them. They do become very brittle. Filming this in 2020, my vehicle is 17 years old, so some of them just disintegrated. You can get more online or at your local Honda dealer parts department. The cover, once it's removed, will allow free access. There's no other panels you'll need to remove, just the clip holding in the filter when we get to that step. With the cover removed, we have clear visible access of the inline transmission fluid filter to remove later. Here you can see the transmission fluid drain plug, which is just a 3/8" drive square, and the inline filter. Located between the battery and airbox is the transmission fluid dipstick, also the fill hole for the transmission fluid. We're going to start our first drain and fill by breaking the drain plug free with a 3/8" drive ratchet, and then taking the magnetic plug out. In doing so, we'll get about 3.3 US quarts out with this drain and fill. We're going to repeat that 3 times to get total system capacity and clean out kind of everything that doesn't come out with that first drain and fill. Full system capacity at overhaul, according to the service manual, is 7.6 US quarts. So when doing it 3 times, that gets us a fluid replacement of almost 100% without doing any harmful power flush or anything like that. In this first drain, you'll notice that the fluid coming out is almost a dark brown or purple. This fluid has about 60,000 miles on it. With the fluid still draining, we'll take the magnetic drain plug and clean off any of the material that's stuck to the magnet, as well as remove the old crush washer. Now we'll take a new crush washer and place it on our magnetic drain plug and turn it in and start that thread by hand. Now we'll take a torque wrench set to 36 US foot-pounds and torque down the drain plug with a 3/8" drive. Here's our drain fluid pan after our first drain, and now we're going to go ahead and get our dipstick removed and start filling the case with new fluid. Note, I did have the dipstick moved to the side to allow air into the transmission housing while draining it for a faster and smoother drain. Now I'm just removing it entirely so we can put the new fluid in. With the new fluid in, we'll now go ahead and start up the vehicle and let the fluid circulate through the transmission housing as well as shift through the gears shortly so that we get fluid evenly distributed and get it hot so that we can check the fluid level. We'll want to get the fluid up to operating temperature. So after a few level checks and making sure that we're within a top fill level, we'll want to take the vehicle out on the road and a short trip and get the fluid hot, run through the gears. Now note, the Honda service manual says to check the fluid after parking the vehicle on a level surface within 60 to 90 seconds of shutting the vehicle off. That way you get an accurate reading with hot fluid. After driving a couple miles with a healthy level of fluid full from our first drain and fill, we're going to go ahead and drain that fluid again, and we'll note that the fluid color is slightly lighter as we've gotten some of that dirty fluid out of the system, and we're going to just get that out again and flush it again. Once again, I'm going to clean off the surface on the transmission fluid drain plug hole, get a new fresh crush washer, and put that on the magnetic drain plug and install it by hand and get that thread started. And again, using a 3/8 inch torque wrench, I'm going to torque it to 36 US pound-feet. Now we'll go ahead and add in 3.3 US quarts for a all-wheel drive model of Honda DW-1 transmission fluid. Once again, with the fluid refilled now, we'll go and start the vehicle, run it through the gears, and then we'll check the fluid level again to make sure it's within a safe level, get the fluid hot, take it on a short trip, and then double check our level and make sure it's full. For our third and final fluid drain, we're going to go ahead and break that plug free again with a 3/8 inch drive. And this time you'll note the fluid coming out is almost a light red, almost pink, like it comes freshly out of the jar. So we've got a mostly clean fluid in our transmission now. Now with a fresh final crush washer installed, we'll go and torque that down again to 36 US foot-pounds using our torque wrench. Before we fill our fluid for the third and final time, we're going to replace the transmission fluid inline filter. There's a forward-facing bracket with a 10mm bolt that's holding that inline filter in place. I was able to get to it with a 1/4 inch drive, small ratchet, and 10mm socket. I was able to then squirt some WD-40 on it and break it free because it was quite corroded on my vehicle and it was a little bit hard to get out. But once I fought with it, it was pretty easy to turn that out by hand once I got it started. With the 10mm bolt, I'll now fish that out and put it safely on the ground. To remove the bracket holding the inline filter in place, you just simply tip it forward, and then the best way that I found was kind of pinching or moving the support that it's tab that it's caught on the bottom there from behind, and eventually you can get it free and then wiggle it out. I tried to, not put any extra force on it or to scratch any of the surrounding painted support members, as that could cause rust in the future. Now with the bracket out of the way, we have easy access to the clips and the inline fluid filter to replace it. To remove the inline fluid filter, we're going to take a vice grips and slowly rotate and move the metal clips that retain that off of the end of the filter, and then move them away so we can peel the hosing off. The hose was quite stuck on my filter, so I used a flathead screwdriver to very gently pry that and start working it off so I could then pull it off by hand. Now with the inlet pipe removed, we can remove the out pipe by just simply taking our vice grips and squeezing directly on the clip with a much easier angle. Now our old filter with, in my case, 160-some thousand miles is free, and we can discard of it and recycle it and put our new filter in. And this is the part number for the inline fluid filter for the 2003 Element. I'm not sure if it's the same exact number for the later 5-speed transmission elements, but consult your parts catalog or your local dealer. Now to install the new filter, we'll just slide the existing hose over the top of it, and we'll take a vice grips or pliers and move those retaining clips securely back and make sure that they are snug and covering the pipe from the filter as well as the hose entirely so that we have a good solid seal. With the new filter installed and the hose clamps secure, we're going to go and take our bracket and reinstall it by first moving it around that bottom retaining clip, and then we'll go ahead and take our 10mm bolt and hand thread that initially into the 10mm bolt hole that secures it at the top, and then we'll tighten that down. Now for our third and final transmission fluid fill, we'll go ahead, remove the dipstick, and we'll put in our funnel with a long tube so that we can make sure that we don't spill anything and make sure it's clean. And we'll go ahead and add in that roughly 3.3 US quarts. In my case, it wasn't exact. I had to add just a little bit extra because I was a little bit low on my number 2 fill. But we'll just want to make sure that when we're all said and done with this, that after letting the engine get hot, putting some short amount of mileage on it, with that fluid hot, shutting it off, and when checking it on a level surface within 60 to 90 seconds per the service manual, that we have the correct amount of transmission fluid and the dipstick reads full. After adding the fluid once again, we'll run through the gears, make sure that the fluid fully circulates, gets hot, and then check that within 60 to 90 seconds on a level surface. After a few checks and adjustments and making sure the fluid is hot and checked on a level surface within 60 to 90 seconds, we should see the fluid go up to the very top where the hatch marks end. We don't want to be over full, we want to be exact, so always add a little bit at a time because it's much easier to get that right the first time than have to redrain. With the fluid all done and our filter all replaced, we're going to go ahead and replace the splash shield on the bottom using those plastic retaining clips. Out of the 11 quarts I purchased for it, I had just about 4 ounces left and 3 used crush washers from that. Please always remember to recycle your used fluids, and thanks for watching.